Etta for not telling my soon-to-be ex-husband that the girl that he left me for has already cheated on him. Original post. So here's a little backstory. My ex left me for his best friend last year around April after nearly 15 years together and 11 years of marriage. In the beginning was the typical story of we've grown apart and he didn't want to move to the state that I moved to start getting our new life together and ready for when he was ready to move. He initially said it was because he didn't want to leave his parents behind with his dad being terminally ill with prostate cancer and his mom wouldn't want to move after he passed. But I immediately knew it was his female best friend who was pushing for this because of some red flag conversations we had been having months before when he visited me in the state I moved to in January. I caught him lying to her about where he was and asked him why she didn't know that he was here visiting me because we were all friends at the time. He told me that it was because she was judgy and didn't want to deal with her being snarky towards him. I asked why would she be judgy when she knows that we are working on our marriage long distance while we wait for the perfect house to come up and us to get everything ready after we had sold our home in CA the summer before. He just said she would judge regardless and then was very careful of how his phone faced afterwards. I had also caught her making comments on his IG posts about my dog and him being her big boys and a few other remarks and actions that made me and her at the time boyfriend uncomfortable. She is also a serial cheater BTW. Well, fast forward to early April and he calls me one morning and says that he doesn't want to move and thinks we should separate. I asked him if it was because of her. He said no and that he had been seeing a therapist and wasn't happy anymore with me and didn't think he loved me anymore but needed time to figure it out. Now here's the thing. We talked on the phone every night from the moment he got off of work till we would fall asleep on the phone together and I would wake him up in the morning when I had to go into work. There was literally no time for these 2-hour therapy sessions that he was supposedly doing over the phone. Fast forward another month of almost zero contact and he says he wants a divorce. I bring up the fact that his best friend is not a marriage counselor and has been making several posts hinting that there was already a relationship between them. He said my perception wasn't his problem and he was done. Not even a month later and she announces they're in a relationship after both blocked me to keep their secrets. Another month later and they're engaged. Mind you, in the photo that was posted on MY birthday, which was during the time that we weren't talking while he decided he was already wearing a black wedding band, which was her toxic claim on him. Now to the cheater cheating on the cheater. A friend of mine reached out to me nearly a year later asking who my ex was dating. I told him the story and he said that he knew her. I asked him how because he knows a lot of people in our old hometown. He said that she was hooking up with a buddy of his. Apparently back in January or February of this year, she showed up to a couple of events or parties that my friend was at and was glued to his buddy, and even went to hook up during one of the parties with his friend. My ex and this girl have been together since at least April of last year, and she was hooking up with some dude just a few months ago. So while this news actually gives me a lot of satisfaction because the serial cheater finally got a dose of his own toxic medicine, I don't know if I want to tell him or not. Part of me wants to just let the karma roll out in its own time. The other part of me wants to tell him to ask her about some dude named Jay from Idaho and to make sure he pays attention to her face dropping because I have all of the receipts at this point. I unfortunately have to see him sometime soon to finalize our divorce, but do I just let it ride and let him find out on his own? More context about our marriage is that I stayed through multiple affairs of his and years of abuse and manipulation. I'm talking everything but physical abuse. He blames me for ruining our marriage because in 2020 I wanted a separation/divorce because I had found out about yet another affair and I was tired of the constant neglect and abuse. In the end, we ended up staying together because I thought he was the person I wanted to grow old with and hadn't come to the realization yet that I was being gaslit and manipulated like always. So we stopped the divorce and stayed together even through me moving to another state to help my parents get their new property set up. So Etta for not wanting to tell him and letting karma unfold all on its own? Yeah, NTA. Let the divorce be finalized. Then just get the Jiffy Pop ready. Don't bother. He would only resent you and look for ways to defend his relationship. On a petty note, once he discovers his partner's infidelity, you can show him your receipts. NTA. They are no longer your circus or your monkeys. Cut yourself off from the drama and walk away free. They can continue their toxic nonsense. They clearly deserve each other. Best of luck in your new jerk-free life. Etta for telling my GF I don't want to see her dad ever again. Original post. Me and my GF live in Gainesville, and her family live about 2 hours away. Our compromise is visiting every other weekend rather than every weekend. We really only visits because her mom and brother like to have us over, but I have never felt at home or comfortable when her dad was around. He constantly will downplay what I say, or he will if I complain about something, no matter what it is, he will take the other person's side. I have spent the past 3 years of my relationship trying to keep him happy. Last weekend was MIL's birthday, and we had just spent the weekend down, but no one made plans to celebrate it the weekend of, but the Monday afterward. I had work that Monday, but not Tuesday, which was her actual birthday, so Mars asked if we could change it. I thought changing it would be too much, so asked if she didn't mind dropping me off back home, 2 hours away, and she could drive back. But, to make a long story short, it just got pushed back to Tuesday. The dinner was fine until FIL showed up. He asked what is everyone's favorite memory with MIL. I just made something up because I couldn't think of anything. But Mars just started crying. Her dad was slightly mocking when she could not come up with anything. FIL then proceeded to say mine is always the day after today. I took Mars outside so we could take a breather. We finished dinner, but ever since I walked back in the restaurant, her dad was looking at me like with disgust. We went home to grab a backpack and go back to Gainesville, but right as we were leaving, FIL grabbed my stomach, not hard, and jiggled it, saying, "You need to lose weight." I had expressed before then to everyone in that house that I was tired of him commenting on my weight. I was tired of him putting his hands on me, and I was tired of him being so condescending. So I just said yup, turned and slammed the door. On the drive home, I told my GF that I do not want to see him again. I have spent 3 years sucking up to this man. I'm not doing it ever again. I don't want to see him at all. We both agreed it would be hard to have a relationship without him in it, so we talked about splitting up and decided to stay together. Whipped her for not going back on the weekends and essentially dropping out of her life outside of Gainesville. We agreed our relationship might not work if I did. And I do love her. I just can't keep doing this. Why on earth do you see them every other weekend? You are adults with your own lives. NTA. You drive 4 hours round trip every other weekend to hang out with in-laws? That's a no for me, even if they were nice. She can go alone if she wants to go that much. Being a couple doesn't mean that you have to do everything together. If you do in fact break up, Mars is going to have issues with her father and any future SOs. And I think you should point that out to her, that no one is going to put up with him. Refusal to wedding unless on speaking terms with bride or groom. Original post. Backstory: my dad was an ass and I ended up with PTSD from abuse. My brother and sister did not witness or believe. Dad died in 2021. We were not on speaking terms. My brother, 33M, got engaged. Yay! We all love his fiancée. She's great. My sister, 35F, starts spamming every social media and tagging me, 29F, about how great our dad was and she was daddy's little princess and the favorite daughter. I told her I blocked her on all social media. She is outraged and demands that I seek help and sends me links to help she approves of: yoga, meditation, AA. I don't like drinking because my dad drank excessively, but have been to AA. I tell her that I just don't think an abusive alcoholic asshole is a good man. She flips out. I take medicine 3 times a day and went to intensive therapy for weeks. She goes on to say that he was still a good man. It doesn't matter how he treated me. I say a friend of my abuser, who knows of my abuse, is no friend of mine. She flips again. She screenshots the messages and sends them to my brother. This is 8 months ago. He texts me about how I shouldn't be on social media anyway and that I need to grow up. 3 months ago, a family event happened. He wouldn't talk / look / be in the same room as me. His fiancée suggested I apologize. For what? I reach out via text to say, hey, I noticed a lot of tension between us. Is there something I can do to remedy it? And his fiancée texts me to say he will talk to you when he is ready. That was 4 months ago. I replied to her, if we cannot accept that we have 2 different perceptions of the same man, there will not be a bridge to rebuild. Their wedding is next month and my mom informs me of the bridal shower, the rehearsal dinner, and the wedding invites. The PPL getting married have yet to communicate. Am I an asshole for refusing all wedding activities until my brother and or future SIL can at least be on civil terms? It's hostile, uncomfortable, silent, and awkward at events right now. I know refusal to brother's wedding is a dick move, but I also don't want to be a sore spot on their day where they begrudgingly invite me and avoid me the rest of the time. NTA. But why are you waiting around for them to compromise with you when you're not the one who has done anything wrong? It's time to stand up for yourself, ma'am. Block all of them completely, social media, phones, the whole deal, then go find a tribe that actually cares about and supports you. Some relationships just aren't worth mending. NTA. Sometimes, people create this image of a parent or child and refuse to accept otherwise even when faced with evidence. It is not your responsibility to convince them of your abuse. If they can't accept your experiences with understanding and compassion, then that's a them problem. I deeply respect your courage to stand by your claims and call out your abuser. Oh wow, NTA, I have a very similar background. Being the oldest, I was terrorized by my father. My earliest memory is him kicking me into a wall. My sister never got touched. I left at 15, he bought her a car, and then a house. Her and I are not on speaking terms because according to her it wasn't that bad, and I deserved it. Yeah, a 5-year-old deserves to be kicked, got ya. I didn't go to your wedding either, ended in divorce. Family isn't always blood, and I've made my peace, even with C.SD, and have gone no contact. My father has since passed, but my sister unfortunately thinks just like him, so I've resolved to making my own family. Never once have I had to put my hands on my son. He knows he's loved, and that's what you need to do. AITA for telling my mom she is giving unsolicited advice? Original post. So I, 27F, live alone and am single. I live in a city that is about an hour from a major city in the US that I don't go to that often. Said city is considered a bit dangerous with a huge drug problem and houseless population, but it is where a lot of events end up happening, so it's hard to avoid in that sense. My sister, 34F, lives further about 20 minutes away, and we have our parents, 63M, 63F, visiting from abroad living with my sister. The best way to describe my family is intrusive. They are very nosy, and what generally is just an overconcern for my safety comes across as mistrust in my judgment and treating me like a child. Work has been crazy for me, so I haven't been able to visit them much outside of the weekends. This weekend, I had to be in the city early Saturday morning for an event, so I took the train Friday night, got a hotel room 5 minutes walking from my event, and left early Saturday after my event. I left for the city right after work, so I had nothing to do Friday night, so I got dinner and went to see a 2-hour-long show right next to the restaurant. I was back at my hotel by 10 p.m. From the moment I got on the train till I fell asleep, my mom has texted me every hour asking me what I am doing, where I am, to send her the name of the hotel, and why I am going out late at night. I kept my cool with her because I know she gets anxious, but it was annoying to say the least, and if it wasn't for the fact that they were visiting, I would have just skipped telling them about my plan altogether. I got back on Saturday and went directly to my sister's place, and figured I'll just spend the weekend there. I was telling them about how good the event was and how much fun I had at the show. Immediately my mom started barraging me for how I should have gone with people and next time I shouldn't be out so late. I tried to reason with her and told her that she should trust my judgment now that I am older and have been living in this area for so long. This went back and forth with her argument simply boiling down to how I shouldn't have gone out, which kind of irked me because this was coming out right after I told her what a good time I had. I kind of snapped and said I'm sorry, but I didn't ask for this advice, to which she said I am not giving advice, I am giving instructions, which really rubbed me the wrong way. My mom started giving me the silent treatment and it got really awkward after that. We went out for lunch and my sister, dad, and I were talking normally, but she was just giving me the cold shoulder. During the car ride back, my dad made an offhand comment about the music in the car, to which my mom sarcastically said, "Oh, don't you know you are giving unsolicited advice? We are not parents anymore, we are just relatives." So clearly she was mad about the comment. I resumed as usual and didn't say anything back, figuring she just needed time to cool off. We got back to my sister's and we were talking about recent trip overseas that I came back from 2 weeks ago. I was telling them a story about how I got locked in the bathroom at my own hotel room because the lock was broken, but luckily I had my phone so I was able to get help. I explicitly said it was a scary moment for me that I try not to think about much because it'll just make me panic again. My mom jumped at this opportunity and said, "This is why I ask you to always send me the name of the hotel, but you just keep getting annoyed at me and saying you don't need my advice." This blew up into a whole fight between her and me. The crux of it was my mom saying that she should have the authority to tell us what to do, and me saying that it comes across as condescending and mistrusting. It really ruined my mood and I picked up my bags and told everyone I am going home. My sister and dad got really anxious and tried to stop me, but I was too upset to stay in the same space as her because I knew I'll say something else very hurtful. My mom got anxious too and told me to stay or otherwise she wouldn't be able to sleep all night. I ended up staying, but I spent most of the time in the bathroom crying over how my mom had yelled at me. Once I took a shower, I was able to pretend like nothing happened. We all had dinner and went to sleep. Now I am up early Sunday morning and I am thinking back to everything that was said, and I still feel very angry. I have worked very hard to be able to travel and do new things. The way we were raised, we weren't allowed to do anything because our parents were always afraid of outside world. It became a running joke with my friends that there was no point in asking me to do anything because my mom would say no. And now that I am almost 30, to tell me that I shouldn't have stayed out till 10 p.m. just seems ridiculous. My sister thinks I shouldn't have told her that her advice is unsolicited because as our mother she should be able to say anything to us, but I disagree. She is free to give advice, but yes, some of it is going to be unsolicited now that we are so much older and have better judgment around our surroundings. Ida? NTA, but put her on an info diet going forward. She's projecting her own anxiety and fears on you. Being a parent is hard and scary. The instinct to protect your kid is very strong. But the way she parented you when you were a young child is not going to work now. You're an adult with your own opinions and experiences. Stop telling her what's going on with your life. She can't have an opinion if she doesn't know what's going on. Learn the art of gray rocking. It's sad that you have to do this, but she's never going to change. But you can set boundaries for yourself and share less information with her. Your mom is manipulating you. She is worried about you but handling it wrong. You should lay down the law. Leave and tell her if you don't listen to me or ever pull the silent treatment or backhand insults. Tell her you want an apology by now and a promise or you will be blocked. It's easier for me to say it, but sounds like your sister and dad are scared which she likes. If you threaten it, you can't back away. Also tell your sister and dad if she texts on their phone or they text for her, they will be blocked also. It's not unsolicited advice that's the problem. All parents give unsolicited advice. It's the annoying questions and controlling behavior. You don't live with her. You're not accountable to her. Her instructions are meaningless. She needs therapy. What do you think about these stories? I am happy to read your comments. Also, I will be very glad of your subscription. I love you.